in sync? Let's do this. My name is Donte Habersham. I was born in Brunswick, Georgia, July 8th, 1984. My parents are Herbert Habersham and at the time, Gail Grant.
My name is Herbert Habersham. I'm the proud father of Mr. Shucks and Miss Shucks.
I'm Gail Habersham. I'm Donte's mom.
Growing up as a little boy, I can remember my mom was always at work. At the time, my mom and dad wasn't married. And so I can remember being at my grandmother's house, and going fishing with my grandfather, going to shoot guns. I just remember those times as a little boy, as I grew up.
Donte growing up wasn't always an easy task.
I remember the time when I was at my grandmother's house, and I used to play in the back room with pots and pans. I think at the time I was about 7 or 8. And I used to play cook. I used to play church. I was the pastor. I would play the organ, just pretend, because I was the only child from my mother. So I was a loner. I just grew up by myself, grew up with adults, you know. So I remember the day when I was 8. I knew I was different. At the time, it was just me and my mom, and she called me in the room and she sat me down and she said, "Son, your dad and I are getting married." And I was like, that was the end of my world. I was like, I'm the man of the house, you know. How this man, which was my daddy, how he gonna come and move in on me and my mama? So my parents got married and we just evolved as a family. And I can remember the times that we would stand on the corner and sell hot fish sandwiches. We would go to games and sell hot fish sandwiches, and that was my life. My daddy would go to work. My mom both worked in the school system. My mom was a assistant coach at the time. My dad was the lineman for the school system, and they would just work. My dad had a part-time job at Walmart, and my mom would just care for people. And so through the years, you know, they taught me that hard work bears sweet fruit. And so that's how I grew up. I grew up working.
His mom and I got him outside the road out on 4th Street. And we used to buy fish, buy barbecue, and do it all on Saturdays. And his mama and I and Donte, we would be out there on Saturdays selling, and everybody would always stop and patronize Donte. So I believe that's where Donte got his start from. He used to watch me and his mama, and he took off from there.
Any chance I get, I work in the yard, helping my grandfather, whatever it took, because I wanted to stay busy.
He went to elementary school and then middle school.
So here I am, leaving and going to middle school, 6th grade. 6th grade wearing a size 13 men's shoe. And kids used to pick on me all the time. So I'm like, you know, it's just the cards I was dealt with. My mom and dad didn't have a lot of money. I mean, we had necessities. I can remember, you know, wanting shoes that everybody else had and having to put them on layaway. And, you know, we lived in a shotgun house, 2-bedroom, 1 bath. If you turn on the sink and the shower at the same time, the water pressures drop. That's how I grew up. And so as I entered into the 6th grade, You know, I can remember my mom coming to say, Donte, you know, the teachers are saying you got a learning disability and they gonna get you some extra help. So I didn't quite know what was going on, but I can remember the teacher coming in the classroom in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade and pulling me out of class and taking me into this little small classroom. And so, you know, the entrepreneurship in me now that I know, I will make a deal with the teacher. I will say, listen, I'll be good in class if you promise you will let me out of class before the bell rings. Because I didn't want nobody seeing me coming out of the special education classroom. So got through middle school. I remember 1999, I'm going into Brunswick High, you know, not knowing really how to read at that point.
In high school, I think he was in trouble more than middle school, of course.
So I can remember being at Brunswick High, a teacher stopped me and she said, Donte, you are not learning like the other kids. I said, okay, what does that mean? She said, well, we have an opportunity, you know, she used that word, for you to take a special education pathway. And I said, what does that mean? In so many words, she basically said, you just show up to class, we'll give you a couple of vocation classes, and the rest will be just masonry and plumbing, and you just show up and you'll pass. I took that path, you know, because it was the easy way out.
I remember his dad giving him a car to drive to school, and Donte used to walk to school and he was always late. His dad gave him a car, a Malibu, to drive. When he was on his late days, he would park into the teacher's spots. And I think the principal or the secretary called his dad, either myself, and said that Donte was late and he parked into the teacher parking lot. I think that very next day, his dad took the car from him, so he had started back walking again to school.
And so I remember about 15 years old, one night, me and my mom had went to get something to eat. And I had on a shirt, a black shirt, I can remember had a cross on, and on the cross it said, Jesus is Lord. We went to Willie's Weenie Wagon to get a fish sandwich. The guy at the window, he looked at my shirt, he looked at me. I was like 14, 15, and he said, son, do you believe that? And of course, I was like, yeah, you know, because at the time, that's what I was programmed to believe, you know, Jesus is the Lord. You go to church every Sunday. And so he said, you want to work? And I was like, yes, sir, I want a job. Mr. Mike Thomas, he hired me, gave me my first actual payroll job. At the time, I was only making $5.25 an hour. I was a prep boy. I would get on the grill, whatever they need me to do. Once I got my first paycheck, I mean, it was a game changer. You know, seeing a small local business, like, it exposed me to what I thought was the world at the time, because I didn't have nothing else. So I just put my head to the grind and I started working. It changed my life. The days that I would talk to the owner and how I would watch him, how he moved and how he dressed and the car he drove. It was just different, you know, to see a African-American man in those days, you know, wear a Tommy Hilfiger and drive a Cadillac, and he had a Jaguar. Like, that stuff stuck in my memory. It intrigued me to go after that. So as I went through Brunswick High and fumbled my way through school, ended up graduating, and I can remember the night that I graduated, I got my diploma. I opened it up and it said special education. And that was the last time I ever seen my diploma. Yeah, I threw that in the trash because I knew by the time I was in 12th grade, I knew that something was on the inside of me that no one else knew. And like people my age, like I'm in the 9th and 10th grade and I'm working 40 hours a week, and they at home getting an allowance.
He always kept him a little job because, you know, he liked stuff. And I remember him telling me one time when he get older, he wasn't gonna buy none of his clothes from Walmart. Donte is just a special son, sweet but different. And Donte is like his dad. He never meets a stranger. Me, I'm different.
I knew I was on to something, but you know, I just didn't know. Nobody was there at the time to pull it out of me. So here I am, graduated, doing my thing, call myself. I'm start selling weed, and because that was the entrepreneurship in me. Like I knew I wanted to be a boss, even though I kept a job, always kept a job. I wanted to be a boss. I probably was in the 11th grade, 10th grade. I went to the old mall in Jacksonville one day, me and my girlfriend at the time, and I got a tattoo on my arm that said boss, not even realizing what I was doing, but I knew that I wanted to be a boss. So
I wanted Donte to go into the military, and he didn't want to go. So one night I was coming down the hall and Donte's room was next to ours, and his arm was out of the cover. And I saw a tattoo, and I'm like, what in the world? Donte got a tattoo on his arm. So, you know, when you have tattoos, I think they have them down so low you couldn't go into the military or something like that. But anyway, he had a tattoo on his right arm. I think it's the right arm. And I was upset about that thing.
By the time I'm 19, you out there in the street selling weed, and I ran across this young lady at the time, and a couple of months later she called me and was like, I'm pregnant. And I was like, what? So when I was 20, had my first son, Denham, and that was a turning point. I just knew I had to work. I had a child. I saw how my father and my mother, how they worked to take care of me. My dad to take care of his other sons. He worked. And so they instilled that in me, that you gotta work. A man that don't work, don't eat.
Hi everybody, my name is Donte Habersham. I'm 19 years old. I'm the oldest of us 5.
So I got into church and, you know, tried to live the Christian life of what I thought was the Christian life, and all the while fighting and kicking because I wanted to be Donte, and I was fighting a call on my life. And so I went through life. About first couple of years after high school, I got introduced to stealing. I had a family member who was telling me about how he heard all these people, how they go to Jacksonville and steal these clothes, and so I would do it. So it was a thrill for me. My first time stealing, I was in the 12th grade, and I went to a local store. Now that I know the guy, he knew me, he knew my father. So anyway, I went to the store and I took a shirt. So I'm thinking, I'm out the store, I'm good. So we walking around the mall in another store. So I see this guy, or the owner of the store, walking up, and I'm like frozen. I'm like, oh Lord, he done got me. So he said, open your bag, young man. So I opened the bag because I'm scared, and there was a shirt. So I got arrested, and that didn't stop me. I caught a hunger for it. And so after I graduated, I began shoplifting and as a profession. I was selling marijuana, and I remember the times that I would take TVs, surround sounds. Back then it was DVD, VHS combos, steal meat out the store, steal liquor, just whatever I wanted to do. Now, by this time, I got another kid on the way, my oldest daughter, in the same year.
I'm Maya. I'm the second oldest.
So now I got 2 kids, and I'm working. I was on probation at the time, just doing crazy stuff. So as the time went on, I ended up getting married, and that was a lot for a 20-year-old to say he married and got a family, and just I hadn't grew up. And so that ended quickly, and ended up having a third child in the midst of all that.
My name is Donte Habersham. I'm the third oldest.
So now I got 3 kids, got a record, a misdemeanor of shoplifting on my record. By 2006, somewhere up in there, I got introduced to the car business. I was in a bad place at that time, and my first day on the job at Toyota, I ended up selling 2 cars. First day, never sold a car before in my life. Made good at doing that and just worked other jobs in between. And as I grew up, I can remember by this time I was like 24, 25. I got introduced to cocaine. And so I started selling it. Started taking it to the jobs, selling it to different people at the jobs. And as I was doing great, what I thought at selling cocaine, and then moved to crack cocaine and selling pills and just doing crazy stuff. And so now, by the age of 25, I'm selling pills and selling crack. And at the time, I had a pretty good setup. I had a friend that was pharmacy tech. We would call in the prescriptions, and she would fill them, and I would come pick them up. And so that went on for a couple of months, and thought I was on top of the world. I remember the day that I went to pick up the prescription. Before I went to pay, she kind of gave me this look of disappointment, let down. So I didn't think nothing of it. And it was very odd that day, because usually when you go get a prescription, they have it, you know, on the shelf behind them, and they search for your name. But this particular time, she had the prescription sitting right on the counter, like as waiting for me to come pick it up. So I got the prescription, and I get in my car, crank up, and I go to back up, and I hear this boom. And I remember looking back, and all these cops was surrounding me with guns and told me to get out, get on the ground. And so, yep, I got set up and got arrested for Schedule II narcotics. So I went to jail, went to the county jail. That was probably my 4th time by this point being locked up. But that I spent the longest time this time. And so by then, my dad was like, man, this joker going to prison. he prison bound. So we get a lawyer, Mr. Bart Altman. He was my lawyer at the time, and I tell you, it was, looking back now, it was the grace of God that kept me, because once I bonded out of jail, he actually managed to keep me out of jail because they wanted to sentence me for 2 years. And so he kept me out of jail. I don't know how we did it, but for 3 years, I was out on bond for a drug charge. And so the day I walked out of jail, I purposed in my mind that I was gonna take all this street knowledge and I was gonna put it in a business. And so I had a house at this time, and so one day I was at my house and I heard a voice, and the voice said, meet me on your couch at 6 a.m. And so I obeyed that voice, not even knowing then, but knowing now that it was God. And so I would get on the couch, and I can remember one morning opening my eyes, and it was like a scroll rolling, like a vision, open vision of this business. Because I was always intrigued by business, and at the age of 8, I knew that I was gonna be a restaurant owner. I just knew it. I thought I didn't know it was gonna be seafood, but I knew that I was gonna own a business. And so when this vision happened, I just went into motion. It was a market called Alabama Seafood Market at the time, and they sold this product called garlic crabs. This was in probably 09, 2009. And my aunt would always go there and get these garlic crabs. I fell in love with the taste, and so every time you would go, you would have to like call that morning just to get on the list, just to get some crabs, because they will sell out so fast. All this happening at the same time. So one day I was driving down the road and went to go to Alabama Seafood, and they had closed. And I was like, dang. And that was the moment. That was the moment that I knew what I was gonna become. I called one of the girls and I was like, hey man, what is up with Alabama Seafood? And she was like, man, RS came in and shut us down. And when I heard that, it was like a bomb went off, because I knew that the people that was working there, they would not carry it on. So I called, I said, listen, I said, I got $100. I said, would you show me how to make this recipe? She was like, do it. So she was like, this is what you need. You got to order it from this company. So I did it. And I mean, it was all God now, because the company, they don't sell to street vendors. They sell to other companies. And so now I see how God put me with the right people that would believe in what I wanted, and they ordered the products for me, and I had it, and I took it to the young lady house, and we in her kitchen, and we mixing, we stirring, and I get that taste, and I could remember that taste, that distinctive taste. And so once I saw the ingredients, I was like, okay, I could do this. June, Father's Day weekend, 2010, I go buy a bushel of crabs, and I started selling garlic crabs. And I can remember the first day I did it, I didn't charge nobody. I got some trays, and I would put 2 blue crabs in a tray. I took them to the salons, to barbershop, places where I knew where people talk. And I was giving them out. I gave them my phone number, and that's when the calls started rolling in. And so back then, you know, we didn't have smartphones. We had flip phones, we had the slide phones, and the text messaging, that was like, you could text 10 people at one time, and maybe all 10 of them would get it. It was called a picture text. I would take pictures of my trays, text it out, and as it grew, I kept texting it out. I would write them down, keep a log of all my people that was buying from me, and that's how it all started. And so I remember maybe about 2 months in to the selling garlic crabs, I just looked up one day and I was like, Lord, send me somebody that can help me with this. And a week later, the phone rang.